Welcome, everybody, to a special Inside Lowell broadcast. We are coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. And on this podcast, we're going to feature a debate between the three candidates vying for the Democratic nomination in the 18th Middlesex District. My name is 𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆, as I said. I am your host, and I'm here in the WellPoint Studios. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusive to GIC members in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And we thank our friends at WellPoint for helping to make this podcast possible, along with all of our other Inside Lowell sponsors, including our friends at Washington Savings Bank. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Boston North Company, business solutions for restaurant and retail. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell since 1925. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on for more than 41 years. And last but certainly not least, the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement, and with one more win, a title to the Tsongas Center in downtown Lowell. So we thank all of our sponsors. And now I want to welcome in our guests for this podcast. You'll recognize them as the three gentlemen vying for the 18th Middlesex Democratic Party nomination. Two of them challengers, one of them the incumbent currently holding the seat. From left to right on your screen monitor, however you're watching this, Tara Hong, Andrew Kollar, and State Representative Rady Mom to the far right. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to this, and I hope we have a successful evening of informing the voters on where you all stand on the issues.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Before beginning, I want to let you know the format. We've discussed this ahead of time, but for our audience out there, you will each be given a 1-minute opening statement. Then you will be asked a series of questions, and you will each get an opportunity to answer those questions. We will rotate going through in order of who will start first on each of the questions. We ask that you keep your responses to 1 minute, but I'm not going to time you. If you have to go a little bit longer, that's okay. I'd rather have an informative and somewhat informal discussion. If it starts to get a little long-winded, you may notice me getting a little bit antsy, and then we'll try to get it back into a shorter time frame. I will give you each an opportunity for a rebuttal if you are specifically mentioned in somebody else's discussion on one of the questions. So just let me know, and we'll get back to you for a rebuttal on that if you haven't had a chance to answer that question already. We'll then have a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll call it a night. This debate is not being broadcast live. It is being recorded. However, it will be shown in its entirety. There will be no editing from the moment we hit record a couple of minutes ago right until the end. As it happens, so it will be broadcast, and it will be posted on our various formats within about a half hour of the conclusion of this debate. So with that, we're going to start alphabetically. We're going to start with Tara Hong. You get the first chance at an opening statement.
Awesome. Well, it's good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Teddy, for putting this debate together. And good evening to all the community members who are watching the debate right now. My name is Tara Hong, and I'm running for state representative in the 18th Middlesex District here in the city of Lowell, which make up of the Highland and the Acre neighborhood in the city. I'm running because I believe that it's time for change in our community. We need to have an active, full-time state representative who can do the work for our community all year round, not just show up during election season. And that needs to be changed. And with my experience of working on the ground through nonprofit and engagement in community to bring resources and support to those in need, I believe that I can do the work for all of us in the 18th Middlesex District well and be your full-time and active state representative. I'm looking forward to answer more questions for the rest of the night and have a great discussion.
All right. Thank you, Tara. Andrew Kollar.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Andrew Kollar. I am running for 18th Middlesex State Representative. As Tara mentioned, that is Lowell's Highlands and Acre neighborhood. My background is I'm an architect with 15 years experience. I spend every day thinking about how you make communities better. How do you raise property values? How do you balance the interests of a lot of people who don't agree with each other? And how do you do it all on a budget? I have the skills, I have the education, my credentials stand on their own. I feel very confident going into this election. Looking forward to tonight's conversation. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Rady Mom.
Thank you, Teddy. Great to be here inside Lowell. Good evening. I am excited to be here and to connect to all the voter in the 18th Mystic District. I've been in Lowell since 1984, my family. Lowell is such a place that really do welcome all the immigrant, and my family was no stranger. And since we set foot here, I was definitely a part of the fabric that helped to build. And I'm not afraid to say that the Asian community came very long time to make all that happen. My family owned quite a few businesses as well, including myself. I'm a small business owner right here in the Highland itself. Worked pretty much the entire district from Market Basket since the original on Dummer Street, which is now a parking lot. And fast forwarding, I own my own business. It's called Mom Therapy, and worked in the community since the past 30 plus years or so. In terms of being a state representative, it is definitely about bringing back the funding to the city of Lowell. Just over the past, literally 5 terms, 16.3 million, that's in total money just for the Highland itself. 5 million in bond bill for the housing partnership, 2 million for the Boys and Girls Club construction. It's very important for the Boys and Girls Club. I'm a kid club myself, and to make this a reality, to make Lowell and Boys and Girls Club a model for the whole city, actually the whole state, is very important. The Rourke Bridge, I've been a big advocate since day one. I really believe that we needed the Rourke Bridge to be safe for all of the public safety issue that is in front of us. Again, that's a total of 170 million at time of receiving that, which is 4 terms. In my 4th term now, it's 190 million. Construction will begin next year. The LINK project, which is, I'm a big supporter and advocate for mass work, mass impact program, tax credit for developer. Those are the key issue here, that we do need taxable income to help, especially our great city of Lowell. The total project itself is roughly $3.7 billion. That is one of the biggest economic boom ever to hit since the inception of the Mill City. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your responses. First question will go to you, Mr. Kollar. What is the most pressing issue facing the 18th Middlesex District, and how do you plan on addressing it?
Sure. The most pressing issue facing the 18th Middlesex coincides with the most pressing issue in the Commonwealth. It is the high cost of living in Massachusetts. We have a serious issue right now with out-migration, where people simply cannot afford to continue living in Massachusetts. Lowell, when I moved here in 2015, was a very affordable city, and we kept seeing our rent go up every single year until eventually we said, you know what, it's cheaper to get a mortgage. And we got very lucky. We locked in on a house just in time. If I had to do that again today, I don't know how I'd be able to afford a house here. And that's despite being a successful businessman in the community. So what does that mean? That means we need to really be stepping up how we're creating high-paying jobs and maintaining competitiveness with other states in our region. Bringing money into our district is absolutely important, but we need to be finding ways of keeping people here. Improving the housing situation is paramount to all of that, because until you have an adequate housing supply, the cost of rent is not going down.
Rady Mom.
I fully agree with that. My daughter moved out, and believe it or not, she actually had to move back. She couldn't afford it. And it is definitely very tough. That's why I'm just thrilled the fact that between the Lowell Housing Authority, they're putting up, I believe, 130 units. Then, of course, 5 million that I brought in with the entire delegation for the Merrimack Housing Valley. These are programs that really needed for our low income and also median income family. It is crucial that we have this moving forward. It's sad when you have students who graduate with their degree in hand, yet they cannot afford to pay for rent. It's sad to say also that Lowell, with $2,000, you can actually find a rental. It's sad. It's really sad. And I'm hurt.
All right. Thank you. Tara Hung.
I believe that there's two main important issues that are really important in our community. One of them is constituent service, and I agree, and everyone is affordable housing here in the 18 Middlesex across the Commonwealth as well. I mentioned constituent service because the past 2 years since I ran the first time until now, people still mention the lack of constituent service, the lack of accessibility from our current state representative in the 18th Middlesex district, from answer phone call, email, and just be accessible in the community to provide resource and support to different community member and different organization itself. And second, like everyone mentioned already, is affordable housing. The housing cost is way too high. And Rob, Mom, you mentioned right on the point that, as a young adult here, I barely can afford the rent that I renting right now in our community. So that is something that we can continue look into it as a whole and fight for more, make it more accessible in the Commonwealth by working with Low Housing Authority, Merrimack Valley House Partnership Housing, and that we have already in our city that focus on and advocate for more affordable housing in our community and across the Commonwealth as well.
Okay, thank you. Rady Mom, next question you will start with. There is growing concern about the economy. Nationwide, that was the top news story today. They're throwing around the R word, recession. But also here in Massachusetts, we've got data showing that the state is not meeting its monthly revenue figures, its tax projections. We're also seeing data about wealth and income leaving the Commonwealth and going to other states. What do you plan to do to reverse these trends, both in the 18th Middlesex District, but also across the state?
Thank you, Teddy. There's no secret. I mean, between the people who have the well-to-do, obviously, if they have the ability, they will plan to move to a better space and time. In terms of what is taking place, it still go back to the economy itself. How can they afford to raise their family? And that's the issue at hand. It take work, and this is why I continue to work closely, whether it is the city manager, the councilor, the mayor, the governor. Those are the stuff that is crucial. And matter of fact, this Wednesday, I'm meeting with Senator Warren to discuss and Lori Trahan what we can do to bring also from the federal. It is a collaborative effort. It takes the immensity of people to come up with an idea and solution. It's nice to complain, but it's also good to be a part of the solution. I've been a part of the solution since day one. That's what I believe.
Okay, Tara Hung.
I believe that we are in this position right now in our Commonwealth because of how we are manage or spend the budget at the state level. We have to look into that on how the deal being made behind the door at the state level and the state legislature to spend those money right to support each of the community, each of the district in our Commonwealth. By supporting the state auditor to audit the state legislators to see how thing is being dealt behind back door and how can we make that be more transparency in our Commonwealth. By doing that, we will see more transparency and see more give more people able to voice their opinion on how things in our Commonwealth should be run. And I believe that that's one of the ways that we can help and guide our Commonwealth to be better.
All right, Mr. Kollar.
I think the magic word here is audit. You have to be able to hold everybody accountable, and that starts with the government. It's true that with the efforts that Diana 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 is going through to audit the legislature, I have every expectation it's going to be successful as a ballot referendum later this year. And that's going to be our responsibility as state representatives next year to see that that goes forward without too much issue. In terms of what do we do about reversing economic trends, the reality is we need to look at our own systems. How are we funding the MBTA and the LRTA? Yes, we have things like the Fair Share Amendment, which exceeded projections for how much money it's been bringing in. But there is anecdotal evidence that some business owners, high-paying, are leaving the state. I think it's a little premature to rush to repealing that because that was a ballot referendum just a couple of years ago. So I think the data is still coming in to prove whether it works or not. But we need to manage our money responsibly. A great example would be the right to shelter law. This goes back to the early 80s. We were leaders in this front. To my knowledge, we are the only state that still has this policy. Last I heard, it was about $40 million a month to support this initiative. And while we absolutely need to be helping the migrants and people that are here, The reality is that is not what the program was initially set up for. We've kind of stretched the limits on it, and it's not sustainable to keep funding it at the current levels indefinitely. So if we're going to be economically responsible, I think it really has to start at home at the state house, and then that can filter out into the rest of the economy too.
All righty. You guys, 2 points. You guys are doing a really good job of staying within the minute, which means we'll probably be able to get to all of our questions. You're also touching on some things that I want to get to, and I'm going to give you all a chance to address a couple of these issues as we go along. But the next question will start with you, Mr. Hong. The housing bill that just passed Beacon Hill completely revamps the way cities and towns must approach housing, and it includes a far less restrictive ADU, accessory dwelling unit provision, than the one that led to a fierce political battle here in Lowell just last summer and fall. Does that housing bill go far enough to address the housing issues, and does it go too far, especially where it comes to the ADUs and making it by right in every single family zone district throughout the Commonwealth?
Right.
We'll start with you.
Thank you. I think that the Governor House Bond Bill is the first step to help address this housing crisis that we are facing right now in our Commonwealth. If we have to try something to see how things go. If we continue to disagree to new idea on how can we approach this crisis that we encounter right now, not just in the Commonwealth, that's across the country, we're not gonna get anywhere. The ADU by right that the governor put in it it's not going to solve the housing crisis, but it can alleviating the housing crisis that we are facing right now. And also, I just lose my train of thought, but the ADU, it's to be clear on what's on the bill is that, you know, it's allowed the homeowner to have one ADU by right, and if they want to do another one, they have to go through the same thing. And by doing that, it's not going to solve the problem, but it's a first step that we can tackle on it. And we also have to continue looking at zoning reform as well. You know, in each of the city, how can we build more affordable housing across the Commonwealth? Yeah.
All right, Mr. Kollar.
Unfortunately, my young friend here is a little misinformed. Housing bond bills come up every 5 years. This is not a first step. This is a long list of steps that have been going on for decades. The problem is that on a 5-year period, you don't see the results materialize fast enough. There's a lot to like, just like Lowell, in this bill. There's no denying that. The funding that's going to go towards repairing and restoring public housing complexes around the Commonwealth, long overdue. These are facilities that really don't meet modern code, that probably in some cases should be condemned. This is absolutely a good thing. However, that does come with a very, very big asterisk. As the person that wrote the language for the accessory dwelling units for the International Zoning Code, which is the model language that people are supposed to look to, the state legislature got it incredibly wrong. By eliminating owner occupancy requirements, you have put this directly in conflict with the building code, which is the same, uniform throughout the state since 1972. And now building departments, even the ones that already allowed accessory dwelling units, are going to have to entirely restructure how they approach this. And just to clarify your statement, Teddy, it's not in every zoning district, it's just in one family dwellings. So if you're in a multifamily district, it's not that you can suddenly say, oh yeah, we're gonna carve out a tiny little piece. ADUs do not have to be the end of one family zoning. There's a responsible way to do it. It's not what we're getting. Buckle up, it's gonna be a fun ride.
All right. Mr. Mom.
Thank you, Teddy. It's interesting how we, as the community, and especially the city of Lowell, I talk to a lot of constituents on both sides of the aisle. The bottom line is that it is up to the town and city themselves having the ability to know what is right for them. It is tough to say one size fits all. Now, is it a good idea to have ability to use of space? Absolutely, I'm all for that. To make it so that it's much easier for developer or the homeowner to go ahead and put up units, you know. And I mean, even on Stevens Street, you see family actually did. I'm sure they're trying to make sure they have more room, whether it is to use for other family member or children that move out, obviously don't have the funding to bring them back. And another one is right on Pine Street. They certainly put up a really beautiful unit. That is nice, the fact that's happening. And again, this is going back to giving the power back to the citizen the city councilor. That's what they're there for, to know what is best for their town and city.
Okay. We're going to start the next question with you, Mr. Kollar. Where this is somewhat housing related and something you have addressed. The cost to accommodate migrants is now estimated to exceed $1 billion a year. And the state is now placing limits on the length of stays that folks can be at emergency shelters. Is that enough, given the effect on communities, especially like Lowell and in the district that you all hope to represent? Or does the state need to revisit that right to shelter law as it applies to migrants? Get a chance to expand a little bit more.
Sure. As I said before, the right to shelter law was originally created for Massachusetts residents, and that was a broad definition. Anybody living in Massachusetts, not somebody crossing borders to seek consideration in Massachusetts. Specifically for the homeless community and those with a qualifying need. People with families, women that were pregnant, veterans. It wasn't intended for the way that it's being used right now. I think you really do need to take a critical eye towards that, restructuring it. I don't want to see these people kicked out on the streets any more than anyone else does. But when it comes to this notion of, do we need to create more housing units? You and I talked about this a few months ago, how important it is that when you create affordable housing, you're creating something with dignity, something people want to live in. In the case of sheltering migrants, these are intended to be short-term housing. Now, yes, the average migrant is going to be about 16 months, and they're trying to make that go faster with getting work permits. If that's the case, it still needs to be livable. It still needs to meet the health, safety, and welfare requirements. But at the end of the day, I don't think we need to make lavish housing for them. This is something that can be simpler, economical, prefabricated or modular would be wonderful. And that is something where we can look to other places. We also need to make it so that more than about, I think it's 60 of our communities, maybe it's a little higher than that, are shouldering the burden for the rest of the state. There's a lot of cities, the ones that have hotels are the ones handling this. There's a lot of other places in the state that could be doing more.
Okay, Mr. Mom, I'll just kind of repeat it because it was a long-winded question and I stumbled a little bit there. But the efforts that the governor and the legislature are undertaking now to place limits on the length of stay at these emergency shelters, is that enough to kind of help mitigate this situation, or does the state need to revisit the right to shelter law as it applies to migrants?
It's no secret. I'm a former immigrant myself, and I came here, and we were fortunate enough to have a sponsorship that brought us to the United States of America. Again, I'm all for helping people. And matter of fact, I was the first one to speak about this one when the governor wanted to bring the immigrant to our city of Lowell and the only hotel that we have. And matter of fact, there was a big problem because of the folk festival. And Adi, who approached me directly, says, we have a big problem. We might not have a folk festival. And it's one of the biggest economic piece to our city. So I worked on that very, very hard. And my first question was that where's the funding coming from? Where's the support coming from? And that was my point. I want to make sure we have the funding to do the job correctly if we were to do this. Again, Teddy, I don't have the magic bullet to make all this go away. Unfortunately, it's happening. And every town and city in the Commonwealth is going through that. And as you know, all over the country. We are doing it. We're moving it. Is it enough? Teddy, I don't know. But we're still working on it. This is what is the meetings taking place every day, matter of fact.
Okay. Mr. Hung.
Thank you. Like Mr. Mom, myself as also an immigrant from Cambodia. We came here through sponsorship, and we are, seeking for new opportunity and find a way to build a new life here, to address the immigrant and refugee crisis that we are encountering right now in our state, of Massachusetts, is that the state is doing as much as we can have to support those families who are in need right now, who are coming and need the help and support from us. But the state cannot do alone. We have to connect back to the federal government as well to fight for more funding and resources from them to do their part to support the Commonwealth, to do what is right to support those families, to have a place to live and able to rebuild their life here in this great country. And by doing that, I believe that the state legislature have to continue pushing for the funding from Congress. Well, as we mentioned last interview as well, Congress like to play game between the Democrat or Republican Party going after each other. But we have to remind them what the purpose of serving in the first place. So we have to continue pushing and fighting and advocate for their funding so our state can continue support those who need.
Okay. Next question. We're going to get a chance to talk a little bit about climate. I bet you thought that was the last thing you'd get asked by me. But I'm curious that the climate bill did not pass the legislature in the last session. Why was the bill flawed? And part B of this question is, what can be done to address the rising cost of energy, given that many folks blame those rising costs on the fact that we're going too green too fast? Mr. Mom, you start this one.
Teddy, back then, Chairman Golden was the energy chairman, and I was on that. I remember meeting with different wind professor from all over the country and even outside the country. And as of late, it is taking place already at the Cape. The solar is happening. Is it quick enough? Obviously, the need to run just the Commonwealth alone, we have a lot of problem. The fact of the matter is that we are a consumer of electricity. And it is quite sad because we're not up to par. We need a lot more infrastructure, especially we're touting, again, electricity and also EV car. It's great, but where are we getting this from? The infrastructure. When you look at the family, and yet when you turn up your AC, they say, oh, you make sure you turn it down, and you want them to buy an electric car. So this is something need to be addressed. It is quite jarring, to say the least, because we don't have enough of, again, I'm not an expert in the power department, but I know for a fact that when it's hot out there, we need the AC to go on, especially for our elder. It is tough. It is very, very tough.
Okay. Mr. Hung.
Thank you. Well, just want to say that just want directly to Rep. Mom, that if you think this is important, why the climate bill didn't go through it all with this session? That's a question to him. But anyway, to address this issue, I believe that we have to continue expanding the mass save program that can help promote and support family who are in need within like solar or build the, I forgot this again. What's it? The
Windmill.
Windmill. Thank you, right? It's happening the same thing this morning.
Shocking.
The windmill to have more and exist more in our Commonwealth. That way is another way that we can save the energy and turn it to clean energy and green as well in our Commonwealth. I don't think we are moving too fast in the way we going in turn and our improve our Commonwealth to be green. There's still many more work that need to be done, and that there are a lot of groups like 350 Mass like in our city of Lowell and across the Commonwealth that are working pretty hard to push this agenda going forward, and I fully supporting them to get the job done.
All right. Mr. Kohler.
As an architect, we are living in the era of deep energy retrofits. Every time I work on a house, a one-family or two-family dwelling, or even multifamily, we are now held to a much higher standard since 2 Januaries ago. It has substantially raised the cost of construction. It has made it difficult to do large-scale additions because it creates triggers that basically your entire building needs to be brought up to the modern energy code. That's really hard to do when you've got a housing stock that is 1950s or earlier. Many of the projects I work on are from the 1800s. It's proven to be a very big challenge. But again, we don't have an option. It's the law. The state is pushing forward. We need to be responsible in when we're making these decisions. When we're saying we want more housing and we want to produce it quickly, you have to look at things like, can we dial back some regulations, permit streamlining? Can we find ways to make things more economical? In terms of bringing in green infrastructure, yeah, new technology is great. I hear so much about bringing in electric vehicles. My house has no off-street parking. So if I wanted to put in an EV charger, I have to run an extension cord across the sidewalk. This is the state law. If I was to do major renovations on my home, it doesn't work. However, there are other technologies that are currently being developed. There's a road in Sweden being developed right now, and I believe there's one out in the Midwest that will generate electric charging just by driving on it. You don't need to plug it in when you get home. Your car will charge on the road. When we're doing these big investments in things like the grid and how we're going to transition to a more electric-based society, that's not a bad thing, but energy storage capacity is one component of it. I think the real future is in looking for taking major roadways, highways, and creating this additional line where charging can happen on the go, and that will alleviate other concerns about the length of time that you can drive an EV without having to charge it or being inconvenienced. So yeah, I think we need to be looking at a lot of different technologies and not feeling pigeonholed that it's only solar panels on roofs. Great. Sorry, you also mentioned about what happened with the bill. Shocking. The economic development bill didn't go forward by the end of this session. The environmental bill didn't go forward. This seems to be an annual or biannual tradition where the last 24 hours is scrambling to get as many things done as possible. There's a lot of time in 2 years. I think we should be doing better.
All right. You had your hand up, Mr. On, that you want to respond to this. I'm going to give you a chance to, because my next question is actually, why does the legislature always seem to be scrambling at the last minute? We hear about people not sleeping. I was talking to Representative Howard just the other day telling me, oh, I'm still catching up on my sleep. You've probably done it yourself. Why does the legislature, why can't it seem to just function in a timely manner, get the bills done and pass both a budget but other important bills that seem to be getting punted for the next session? That's my next question. You can respond to what you wanted to beforehand as well.
I just want to add to the last question that, we have the state next to us, Vermont. They are work pretty well in finding a way to turn their state to be renewable energy and green. So there's another way that we can partner or learn from them to start bring our state to be in that level as well. And to the answer to the question, I think because of the lack of I would say organization, the lack of leadership, the lack of constituent service to be able to know what's going on. That's why you start seeing the 2 p.m. Roll call going 2 a.m. roll call going over the time. That is another way that is another issue that's connected back to the state auditor, want to audit the state legislator to see what need to be improved, what need to be changed, and how can we make our state legislature to be more effective, to be more working for the people in the Commonwealth. And by doing that, it have to be start in each of the district in the Commonwealth to elect someone who can and do the work full time and be active and willing to be do all the work and accessible in the district and willing to bring that to the State House. And by it have to be start on each of the district and yeah, I'm running on to
That's okay. Mr. Kollar.
I think what you just said is absolutely terrifying. The notion that you just suggested that 139 159 state representatives in the state are not in touch with their constituents, or the 40 state senators are not in touch, I respectfully disagree. I know people in my district that don't feel that they can go to our incumbent to ask him for services. So they will go across the river, they will talk to Rodney Elliott, or they will go downtown and they will talk to Vanna Howard, or they'll talk to Senator Kennedy. I've been very impressed with the constituent services that each of them have delivered. And that is what I want to bring to the 18th Middlesex. So yes, there's a constituent services issue in our district, but I don't think that's what happens statewide. To your question about why do we have dysfunction in the State House, I think you need to be improving overall coordination between the representatives and the areas that they're encompassing. So in our case, I would say Lowell is rather blessed. We have 3 state representatives. Yes, they bleed into some of the neighboring townships. And we have our own state senator. All 4 of those people should be working in unison to the fullest extent they're able to move bills forward. And that is what I plan to do in this role. I've worked with Rodney Elliott and Ed Kennedy when they sat on the city council, and I believe Rodney was the mayor at the time. I was on the Lowell Sustainability Council. We were an advisory board guiding environmental policy. What is good decisions that we should be looking at and leading the town in that way. So yeah, I believe that there's a reason for this dysfunction, and it's just a lack of communication that can be improved, because we should not continue to be the last state in the country to get a budget finalized. We should not keep having these marathon legislative sessions in 24 hours. You had 2 years. Do better.
Okay. Mr. Mom, I'm going to give you a little extra time to address why the legislature always seems to be scrambling, but also both of your challengers here have pointed to a lack of constituent services, and specifically within the district. That falls on you. I'm going to give you a chance to address both of those.
It's amazing how they tout all this stuff, but yet both of them have my cell phone. And Tara actually drove by my office. Kollar, I have to say, I met you once at one event, and all this time you've been here since 2015, is it?
2015, I met you multiple times. And I've shown up to your office hours, but you weren't there. When I called the State House, they didn't know where you were either.
Wow. Those are probably the time that when I'm out actually meeting with other constituents. But anyhow, besides
the office hours, I didn't.
So, you see, it's nice to tout all of the stuff that especially not there. There are no substitution for experience in this line of work that I noticed that. Matter of fact, within the first term in the House of Representatives, I was very fortunate to have the groundwork of Representative Golden, Representative Kevin Murphy, who laid all this out. I was able to jump in right away and bring the speaker literally in my first time to come see the Road Bridge. That's why the effectiveness of that leadership, that's what brought benefit. That's why the bridge is happening. 190 million, that's real money. When you talk about $16 million, that doesn't just clap your hand, it happened. That is because of effective leadership, that you go do the work and bring back the bacon to the district. It's real money. That is what we're talking about. In terms of money for education, when I started in 2015, $135 million. Chapter 70, as of right now, it went up to 243 million. That is to come back to our city. That's real money again. When you talk about the bond bill, 5 million, that's to bring back. That's just last month alone. Those are real number they bring in. When you talk about project like the courthouse, $200 million, that's 14 years before my time. I was fortunate enough to help bring the finish line. That's crucial. Everyone in the entire Massachusetts wanted that project. Unfortunately, they can't, because we fought for that. And we were lucky enough through the connection through former Governor Baker, which I have great respect and work for. That's why we're able to bring all this funding back here. And of course, as of late, with Governor Maura Healey, these are the continued effort that you have to constantly meet with. It is tough when you are a one-man show. And when I say I walk every day, I meet constituents on a regular basis. It's no secret, my office is 130 Highland Mac, right here in Lowell. I meet people on a regular basis. Matter of fact, every day they walk into my office, right here in Lowell. But obviously, it's much easier to say, oh, constituent service. Between all the rep, I have one chief of staff, Jake Vitale. That's what we do. We handle over 500 cases just in COVID alone. That's just in that time alone. Besides everything else, from everything under the sun, of job to unemployment, even immigration, that we help to facilitate, because some of those are federal, but because they know that they can connect with me personally, that's what I do. Just the other day, I have a lady call because she wanted to see a doctor. And of course, the doctor actually signed this per piece of paper. Now she literally have her driver license revoked. Long story short, I had to make all kinds of phone calls, and we're still in the process of helping her getting back her driver license. Again, here is a woman who live alone, but because she went to see a doctor saying that I have arthritic in my wrist, the doctor, she didn't speak English that well that day. She didn't have a translator can help her. So that's what we're dealing with. In terms of constituent wisdom, it is one of the most crucial and important aspects of my life. I've been doing that. I've been serving the community since '84. Of course, when you have a young man that just came to the state, he don't know my record. So therefore, absolutely, it's easy to tout that. When I serve in many boards of director, personally, those are crucial. The people that knows me, I speak as is. It's about working for the people. Don't just give lip service. When you don't have a job, make sure you get a job first before you try to make decision for the millions of people that are making sure that you knows what it is. I have my son who's in the United States Marine. He's a sergeant at 23. Do you think I don't worry about that? Absolutely, I worry about that. The men and women who serve, who fought for the freedom. I lived through all that. I dodged bullet. I walked through landmine. I'm fortunate enough to have a second chance at life. I never forget that. America, to me, is absolutely the land of opportunity. I want to make sure that my children are able to live in this, literally this economy where they need to live and get an education, that they can actually support themselves. To me, that is crucial. That's why I asked to stay on the education part of it. It's very, very important. Do we need work? Absolutely. This is what it takes. You need to connect to the people. When the constituent came to talk to me on a regular basis, on every group, matter of fact, I tell them straight up, I say, listen, guys, I need you to bring a group all the way to Boston so I can bring you in front of a chairman and literally talk to them. They listened to me, they did. When Dick Howe did his tour, and back then, literally they're asking about this big project component, I said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to the governor. And I did. The very next week, I went back to tell Dick Howe. I said, oh, by the way, remember you asked me about this question. Here's what the governor answered for you. He goes, wow, you do that? I said, yes, I do. A constituent wrote a letter, gave to me directly. I walk into the governor's office, hand it personally, because I want to make sure the governor get that. Those are the kind of work that I do on a regular basis.
All right. I want to give you both a chance. You raised your hand, Tara, and I want to give you a chance to respond. And Andrew, I feel like I'm going to give you a chance to respond as well, because you've both been critical in interviews of constituent services.
Yep. Thank you. Mr. Mom, first of all, if I don't know your record, I wouldn't decide to run for the position at this young age. I believe that it's important to start having a full representation in our community, who can be active, who can be show up in the community. And if you say that you've been active in the community to work in constituent service, why through the door? When we walk at the door, talk to people, asking people to come on and vote support for us on this election on September 3rd. Some people still doesn't know who the current state rep is. Do we even know that some people doesn't even know that the state representative position is existing in the Acre or the Highland neighborhood? That is just sad to hear from our community. And I myself, since 2022, when I decided to run for the first time, one man who came up to me when I was standing in front of market baskets to collect signature, he came up to me and he said that he had diabetes during COVID-19 and that he couldn't able to contact anybody at the state level. So he ended up lost his leg. Those kind of story that it's give me the courage to continue fighting and advocate to get elected to be the next state rep for the 18th Middlesex district, to do the work for the people. And just recently, I got contact from one of the community member who live in the 18th Middlesex district who have a trouble or have a problem with housing issue. And that is the kind of story and the kind of problem is real. Whoever in this position can be really effective every single day, every single minute, have the power and the opportunity to change someone's life, to improve every single thing in the district and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, if you have someone who willing to work full time. And I want to point out one more thing is that, Mr. Mom, you mentioned you have an office that people can go to, or you have a phone number that people can call you. Why can't you contact the people who need the help and support? Contact nonprofit who need help and support during COVID-19. I work a nonprofit full time during COVID-19. I in the front line, deliver food, deliver diaper, deliver anything that the community needed, and no one at the state level come out to do that. When the Acre neighborhood, when the water pipe broken, I show up, deliver food to help family who are live in the hotel, spending my time to support family who in need. That is the kind of job and experience and understanding of community that I am bringing to this table as this young person, 24 years old, who are engaged in the community through nonprofit. I volunteer, I work full-time, I work part-time, I sit on the board for different nonprofit, CMAA, volunteer for CBA, Lower Line, and so many things that I am committed to bring to the table as your next state representative.
Mr. Kollar.
Sure. Mr. Moms insists that he's been providing these services. And I say, okay, he's been in for the last 10 years. He's run against 3 to 4 people every 2 years, with the sole exception of 2020 when COVID hit. If everybody was so satisfied with the job that was being delivered, why is there constant opposition? Again, I'm not opposed to that. Good quality elections that get people interested is absolutely important. Part of why I'm running this year is because I want to bring that to this race, because we have poor voter turnout. My personal experience knows that this doesn't work the way it is, because when I came here in 2015, I've always been very active with the American Institute of Architects. Up here, I've chaired our Codes Committee and Standards Committee, and I work with the Government Affairs Committee on a regular basis. They said, be an asset to your local elected officials. That's what I wanted to do. I've mentioned on multiple occasions about, I've gone to the donut shack when Rady was having his hours there. Show up, there's nobody there, call the State House, we don't know where the rep is. That's not the only time I've tried to reach out. I've gone down to the State House. I've talked to your aides. I can count on 0 hands how many times I've ever gotten a phone call back to follow up on that conversation, that I didn't just have lip service paid to me, and that my time going down to Boston was kind of wasted that day. On multiple occasions, I've seen bills that you vote on or say that you'll sponsor or support, but had you had a conversation with a single architect in this community, you'd understand why that probably wasn't the best decision to do. I don't buy that you're rendering constituent services in a proper manner. But this is one of those things where if this was a court of law, one of us will be shouting speculation, the other will be shouting hearsay. You're going to tell which story is more convenient for you, and I get that. Now, in terms of listening to constituents, I have no problem sharing. I'm working with your equivalent of Jake Vitale. I'm working with Jeffrey Feldman. Jeffrey is our state committee man for the Democratic Party in the 1st Middlesex District. He worked with Rep. Mom back in 2016 to help get him reelected, and he's offered his services to Mr. Hong on multiple occasions. They don't pick up the phone. They basically giggle, they ignore what he's saying. This is a constituent in our district that on multiple times in history has tried to help both of them. He's also someone that only supports candidates that he firmly believes is going to win, and we've strategized accordingly. So, personally, I think we have a slightly better chance of better constituent services with Mr. Hong. I'm not convinced he's not just another Rady 2.0. Go ahead.
Hey, my background in the community is through nonprofit. If you talk to anybody on the ground in the Highland and Acre neighborhood, you see me walk door to door to either encourage people to register to vote, or you saw me pull up my car and deliver food to people with diaper. And that is the work, and that's just the work and experience that I have that I'm ready to bring to this table. And the promise as your next state representative to improve our constituent service is to improve our communication to be better first from the state representative office. I promise to offer office hour like Rep. Howard been doing. I will be there and listen to the concern the community have, and listen to whatever expert that you have in architect to work to improve our Commonwealth in Massachusetts. And second is to be active on social media. That is another way that InsideLowell also been doing to greatly to pass the information out to our people in the Commonwealth and in the Greater Lowell, and especially in the city of Lowell itself. And second, I want to have an active social media, active website, to continue updating what bill that I'm focused on, what bill I sponsor, what bill I'm planning to vote on. And every communication that I need to pass out in the community, that is the way that I'm planning to be more accessible, be willing to answer phone call and email when needed. I am not Rady Mom 2.0. I don't know Mr. Mom directly before I decide to run. I'm decided to run because of my passion in the community, my energy, my commitment, ready to serve for our people here. And like I mentioned at the Upper Highland neighborhood a few months ago, is that one of the things that encouraged me to be who I am, also encouraged me to do the work right now, is my time and experience in high school in the Air Force RTC program. The core values set pretty clear that it's integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. those three things is still in the back of my head. Continue every day to work for our community. So.
All right. We spent a lot of time on that question, but I just want to do a quick follow-up on it. And I'll start with you, Mr. Kollar. But there's three of you running for the Democratic nomination. There's a clear divide. There are clear disagreements on issues, also on personalities and the way folks in that district have been represented for the last 10 years. Somebody's going to win. When they tally the votes on September 3rd, somebody's going to win. The three of you are running as Democrats.
Yes.
Do you pledge to support, as a Democrat, whichever one of you three wins that on the primary on September 3rd, Mr. Kollar?
Thank you, Teddy. The answer is yes. This is a Democratic primary, and I believe that we respect the outcome of elections. I am aware that we have an independent, formerly a two-time loser in this race for state representative, planning to run as an independent. Maybe, maybe not. The whole thing is bizarre. One of the people on the stage has already said that they will publicly come out and support him. I remain adamant. Elections matter. Election integrity matters. I don't need to defend my integrity on that. So yes, I will support whoever wins this, which admittedly I have every expectation is going to be me. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mom, will you support, if you are not successful, you will support either of your challengers who is successful?
I do. Yeah. I mean, this is what Democrat is all about. As long as the people vote, that's the bottom line.
Okay. And for you, Mr. Hong?
I'll say the same thing. I'll support whoever the nominee for this, for whoever the nominee for the Democratic Party go to the general election.
Okay. You have said in the past that you would personally support Dave Ouellette, who has said the independent, if he runs, should you not be successful, he has said he will run against Rady Mom. Are you changing that tonight?
I never say that I fully support him or back him up, that to support him to run as an independent. I'll say that to consider to see what it's gonna go, right? Right now, I'm only focused on my campaign to run for this position and get to win this election. But for now, whoever win this on September 3rd, that will be the person that I will support in the general election.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to start the next question with you, Mr. Mom. And it's been addressed briefly by your two challengers here, so I'm going to give you a chance to address it, but also to follow up on it a little bit. There's been speculation that even if the voters approve the ballot initiative filed by the state auditor that would give her the power to audit the legislature, that leadership will challenge it in court. That is the House leadership and the Senate leadership. There's also some talk that maybe the Attorney General will challenge it in court. A, do you support the auditor's efforts? And B, if that ballot initiative passes, if the voters of Massachusetts say that they support the auditor being able to audit, will you support or fight efforts by the legislature to challenge it in court or elsewhere?
Teddy, Diane Zacler served with me as a rep as well, and in the Senate, so I work very closely. Again, as the auditor, I'm sure that she's capable of knowing what it needed. Again, that's what brings transparency to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If the people of the district and the entire Massachusetts vote for it, absolutely. I mean, why not? That's what her job is, to make it free and clear and transparent. Why not? I'm in for that.
Okay. Tara Hung.
So it's a pretty simple answer to the question is yes, to support her cause to audit the state legislator. It didn't even have to go through the ballot to allow people to voice their opinion first. It's said pretty clear and simple. People have been saying so many years already that the state legislature have been so inactive and is not the people house anymore. I fully support the state auditor case to audit the state legislator and will fully support as well when elected.
Okay. Just as a brief follow-up, because there's some speculation that the leadership in the House and the Senate would not look at that kindly. And you're going to face some pushback that may or may not affect your ability to represent your district. Will you fight leadership efforts if it comes to that?
Yeah, this was transparency and democracy for our Commonwealth.
Mr. Kollar.
Yes, as we discussed in our interview a couple months back, I am in support of State Auditor Diana Zacler's efforts to audit the legislature. My expectation is that ballot referendum is going to get passed. I disagree with Mr. Hung in the sense that this was just something that could naturally happen in the State House. Most people don't just generally volunteer to put restrictions on themselves. This to me is a perfect example of what should be a ballot referendum question. People want accountability. They want to know that their tax money is being spent properly. Again, people get worried about things like earmarks and pork. At the end of the day, our job is about bringing in funding for our district, and it is our job to understand our district better so that we can do that effectively. So yeah, I think this is a good thing in the long run. You're absolutely right that leadership is probably going to fight this tooth and nail. Again, my tagline from the beginning has been practical politics for a sustainable future. I look for good, sensible reasoning and a basis for why I make my decisions, just like the way I design buildings. So when it comes to something like this, yeah, on one hand, I do want to do everything I can to maximize my efficiency in bringing home support and funding for our district. But at the same time, if it's the will of the people that's already spoken, that's what we go forward with. We'll also note, when you have ballot referendums that get passed, even if it's something that you don't necessarily personally agree with, the people have spoken. You need to pay attention. That's part of our job.
Okay, thank you. Final question. We're going to start with you, Mr. Hong, and there'll be a little bit of a different twist for you, Representative Mom, given that you're already serving. Tara, what is the first bill you will file if you are elected? Come January, what's the first bill you will file?
At the moment, I will not be able to give you a clear text or what is going to be on there, but I want to focus on affordable housing in our city of Lowell and our district as well. There's a need that need to be done, and we have to focus on that, including like rent control and so much more. That is something that I will willing to look at and put on a file and when I get elected.
Okay, Mr. Kollar.
As I mentioned, we covered housing bills before, and 5 years from now, some of those conversations will resurface. First bill that I have the intention of filing is what I would call an act to establish an ethical framework for generative AI. The motto of our city is art is the handmaid of human good. We are home and host to hundreds of artists, many in my district, working or living out of Western Avenue Studios, and we have galleries all over downtown. The reality is they see this as an existential threat. For those watching that aren't familiar with what generative AI is, this is where you go onto a computer engine, you type in a sentence for what you want, and a few minutes later, a magic image pops up, usually 4 of them, with what the computer thinks it's supposed to look like. These are sourced and trained on effectively stolen materials in many cases. So what I would want to see is an ethical framework established that compensates artists that choose to participate in the system for training purposes, uses non-copyrightable images, public domain work, things of that nature. And there are examples that this is already being done with certain software applications. But right now we have about 10, 12 bills in the State House that pertain to artificial intelligence. The reality is I don't think any of those are really going to be moving anywhere anytime soon, except for the ones pertaining to deepfake technology, because it goes right back to election integrity and concern about manipulating the truth. This is essentially an extension of that, that I think the majority of artists that I've spoken with really do care about at some level.
All right. And lastly for you, Mr. Mom, your first bill was filed back in 2015. What's the next bill you'll file if you're reelected and get sworn in again?
Teddy, I wish I can file the law to give the citizen more right or more freedom per se. Obviously, when we talk to all of the people, how much can you govern the people? I mean, isn't that the people have the will to live by themselves and do what is right for them? It's nice to have the government check and balance, but I believe that it's still towards the people, that they're the one who are telling me what they need, what their want is. So therefore, it's not my job to just mysteriously come up with a bill to put more restriction on the citizen. How about giving the citizen more freedom so they can make their own informed decision? That's my thought.
That's constituent service. Sorry.
Part of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. That concludes our question and answers for the debate. We'll give you each a minute or so to give a closing statement. Mr. Kollar, yeah, you get the honors this time.
Sounds good. My name is Andrew Kollar. I am running for state representative in the 18th Middlesex District. I am asking for your vote on September 3rd in the Democratic primary. I am tired of having poor candidate choice in these elections. We peaked in our district in 2018 with about 3,700 voters. That has been on the decline now for the last 8 years. Last time around, the two gentlemen to either side of me brought out 40% less voters. These people still exist in our community. They've just simply decided we're not interested in these candidates anymore. More people check the box, none of the above, than either one got last time. They're looking for something new. They're looking for something different. They're looking for something interesting. More importantly, they're looking for somebody with the education, the credentials, the qualifications, and the experience to do this job. As an architect, I do this every day. The basis of my profession are 3 magic letters, HSW, health, safety, and welfare. And for the last 15 years, I've done everything in my power to make sure those are upheld in every project I design, every client relationship I work with. I know how to deliver constituent services tantamount to what you're seeing in the other districts in our area. I understand how you write government legislation because I've done it. I've written building codes and standards. I've worked with code development processes. I understand how you get people to agree or at least work together for compromise. And that's what our district needs right now. We need somebody with the experience and the maturity to handle this position. That person is me. My name is Andrew Kollar. I'm asking for your vote in the September 3rd Democratic primary for state representative of the 18th Middlesex District. Thank you.
All right. Ready, Mom?
Thank you, Teddy. Good evening to all of the voter of the 18th Middlesex District. It is truly an honor serving the 18th Middlesex District. I've been doing my work since day one. I never forgot where I came from. You truly do give me the honor to serve and to bring back the funding that's necessary for our district. Just in the acre alone, $1.4 million for parks, that is open space. And of course, in the Upper Highland, we just had a beautiful playground, which when you asked me a place for all of the children to go to have a clean place and safe, I made sure that was in the works, and it's finally completed. It's beautiful, it's safe, it's also fenced in, because I know that you bring your young child, they don't want them to run to the street. That is all done already. Again, kudos to the city manager and also the recreational department that made that possible. To date, again, $190 million, that is for the road bridge, which I told you I've been fighting for that. It took me 4 terms to get that. This is not just me alone. It is the combined effort from our city councilor to our men and women in the front line. They came to the State House to speak, from our ambulance to our police department. You help to propel this fast forwarding. Congress Lawyer Trahan, she literally bring in the effort to bring that funding that is crucial, and to date we have that. Moving forward, in this coming up, the project, the LINK project, which is by Chancellor Julie Chan with our city manager, Tom Golden, it is an unbelievable project which was 3.5 years in the making. I couldn't talk about that when I saw that. I know that it was so important for the economic growth for our city of Lowell. I really believe that this will absolutely help transform. In terms of job-wise, just from the links itself, it is 2,000 permanent new job, paying, good paying job, 500 unit of market rates housing, 300 actually construction, 1,300 job construction. That is in our city. That is happening as we're speaking. Again, it is truly an honor. I ask for your vote to send me back to continue to do the work that I've been doing for you. September 3rd, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ready, Mom. Tara Hong, final word goes to you.
Sir, thank you, Teddy, for having this debate today, and thank you to all the voter in the 18th Middlesex District and all the viewers as well. I know that InsideLowell have a big viewer across the Greater Lowell that are watching this debate today. My name is Tara Hong, and I'm running for state representative in the 18th Middlesex District, and I'm here today to ask for your vote to vote for me on September 3rd. I believe that this election, this year election is important in so many levels, from the national level to the state level, and including this race as well. And it is your choice to vote for someone who share your idea, your principle, and your value, who can represent you full time in each of the district, and especially in the 18 Middlesex district that I'm running for right now. So it is your choice to vote for who you believe in. And I believe that with my experience in the community, with my youth energy, with my compassion, my passion for this position, I'm asking you to give me the opportunity to have a chance to serve you, to be your next state representative. And please vote for me on September 3rd. And we also have early elections coming up as well on August 24th. And mail-in ballots also already went out. So please make a plan to go vote, and it's gonna be an interesting year.
Okay, thank you to all three of you. I think the residents of the district, the voters of the district, have a better understanding, I hope, of where each of you stands and what each of you would bring to the position. Thank you for sitting down with me and having this important discussion.
Thank you, Teddy.
so much,
All right.
Teddy.
And I also want to thank all of you who tuned in, whether you're watching it the night we recorded, Monday, August 5th, or at any point between now and Election Day. A couple of dates for you to keep in mind, and Tara was kind enough to mention them. Early voting starts in Lowell on Saturday, August 24th, and runs through Friday, August 30th. Mail-in ballots are already going out now, and you will be able to vote. Get your ballot in. Make sure you get your ballot in by Election Day. You can request a ballot up to 4 business days before the election. If you do choose to go that route, I highly advise you to drop it off in person, either at Lowell City Hall or at one of the drop boxes. I believe they have them set up in the JFK Plaza. And of course, primary election day, for those of you who like to vote on Election Day itself, as I do, Tuesday, September 3rd, polls open at 7 a.m., close at 8 p.m. At some point later that night, we'll know which of these gentlemen will represent you, or maybe have to run against somebody in November. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us here, including our guests. Remember, September 3rd is Election Day, primary election day. Get on out there and vote, everybody.